Take courage. Be of good cheer. Do not be afraid. Take courage, Jesus said to his disciples, his frightened disciples on that night on the lake. And take courage, Jesus says to us this week in our stormy lives, amid the hurricane of coronavirus and the earthquake of civil unrest and the mighty storm that blew through here on Tuesday. Take courage. Again this week, the lectionary gives us a number of familiar and beloved passages. In the gospel, we just heard about Jesus and Peter walking on the water. From 1 Kings, we heard Elijah encountering shattering wind, violent earthquake, blazing fire, and finding God in none of these, but encountering God in the sound of sheer silence. And in Romans, Paul reminds us of the power of confessing our faith. As familiar and reassuring as these passages may be, the gospel passage in particular challenges us. It challenges me. We read it or we listen to it and we wonder, is it possible that a human being really could walk across the surface of Lake Galilee? Did Jesus really walk on the water? Did Peter really get out of the boat and walk on the water? And what does that mean for us? What are we supposed to do? Does that mean that we have to get out of our boats and somehow perform supernatural acts? What does this passage have to say to us today? Well, first of all, the gospel passage is primarily about Jesus. It's not about Peter, and it's not about Peter getting out of the boat, although a lot of preachers make this sermon about Peter and about Peter getting out of the boat. The gospel passage is about Jesus and about who Jesus is, and it's about Jesus' authority. It's a testament to his power. This gospel passage shows that Jesus is not some mere teacher. Jesus is not just another itinerant rabbi. Jesus is still even more than another prophet in the long line of prophets reaching back through Elijah. In this passage, Jesus says that he is the great I am. He shows that he is God, the same God as the God of the Old Testament, yet in a new way, he is God with us in the flesh. Last week he showed that he was God with power over bread and fish. This week he shows that he is God with power over storm and sea. Therefore, he should be God with power over you and over me. So this familiar gospel passage has implications for discipleship. And as I said, it's easy to focus on Peter. Peter, who stayed up on the water's surface until his fear overcame him. Yet, as I said, the focus is not on Peter. Peter doesn't get mentioned at all when Mark tells this story in his gospel or when John tells this story in his gospel. Today I want us to notice and remember and pay attention to the fact that there were other disciples there. Yes, they were unnamed, but there was other disciples there. There were other disciples who did what Jesus asked them to do. There were other disciples who dutifully got into the boat and headed across the lake, no doubt, still wondering and still amazed and still talking about bread and fish and feeding thousands of people. There were other disciples there who got terrified by the storm and by rowing all night against the wind, and who were not sure what they saw. And there were other disciples there who listened when Jesus said, "Take courage. You are looking at I am. Don't be afraid." There were other disciples there who waited while Peter challenged Jesus and demanded a personal performance. And there are other disciples there who said, "Truly, you are the Son of God." You know, in our tradition, we call the main part of the church building where we all sit for worship as the nave. And that word nave comes from the same root as navy or naval or ship or boat. One of the reasons for that is if you look at the roof of most churches, if you were to flip it over, it would make a pretty good boat. This gospel passage reminds us that we all belong together in that nave and in that boat. As Christians, we are all in the boat together, watching for Jesus, listening for Jesus, trying to discern Jesus through the storm as best we can, trying to obey Jesus, proclaiming Jesus. And we do all of that together, not alone. We do it together. Especially when times are violent and terrifying, either from shattering winds or violent earthquake of civil unrest or the blazing fire of coronavirus that's sweeping around us. Jesus does not promise to keep us out of these things. God chose to be with us in these things, to go through these things with us, to come to us through the storm, and to be with us in that boat. And when we listen, in the sound of sheer silence, we can hear him say, "Do not be afraid. Take courage. I'm here." Amen.